Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom, and tonight, Dan, we've got one of the genuine Big Country legends. Albany head football coach Denney Faith will join us here on tonight's show.
Yeah, this is one I'm really excited about. Obviously, like you said, Coach Denny Faith is just one of those big country coaching icons, just a guy who is, like you said, a living legend. I mean, his record is amazing. So many wins, so much consistency, so many great players and kids put out of that program. Just really awesome to see what he's done for as long as he has. And he's got maybe one of his best teams ever this year. So it's going to be fun to talk to him about that and just about his career there, just because there's just been so much positive that's come out of that program. So I'm excited about it.
I think he's a future Big Country Athletic Hall of Famer myself. I think he's already earned it. But before we talk to him and before we get into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Albany. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and before we bring Coach Faith on, we've got some ball games from last week and this week that we wanted to chat a little bit about. Dan, you went to Wiley's game against Lubbock Cooper. They fall 38-10 to Lubbock Cooper, and that loss hurt them.
Yeah, I mean, this one really takes them, they're no longer in control of their playoff destiny. To make the playoffs, they need a lot of help. They'll need to beat Plainview in the final week and then have Wichita Falls upset Ryder, which is a tall ask, and then Cooper to beat Randall, which that probably will happen. But what was interesting about that Lubbock Cooper Wiley game was that I thought, honestly, that Wiley had a really good game plan, and they really executed it very well early in the game. They were playing a really good defensive game. The problem, it was the first half was really just three big plays. They gave up two long touchdowns that accounted for almost all of Lubbock Cooper's first half yardage. And then they had a pick six. So, I mean, they had played right with them, but they were down 21-0. And that makes it tough when you're playing a team as good as Lubbock Cooper is, particularly defensively. That's and just an excellent defense. Got a couple of D1s in the middle of it. Huge defense. And but I thought Wiley played well. They moved the ball well early in the game. They really possessed the ball. They kept it away from Cooper. And honestly, down to down, they defended Cooper well. The problem was they gave up the two big plays. I think it was a 69-yard run and a 69-yard pass, a 75-yard run, or vice versa, and then the pick six. So it was really just three big plays that kind of took them out of it. But I thought they competed well. So it was a loss. It was a key loss for their playoff hopes. But I thought they competed well. And I think that's a big deal when you're trying to fight for your life there.
All right. Another local action. Cooper goes out to Aislinn Falls, 52-23, and with that loss, Dan, now the Cougars are just battling for a 4 seed.
Yeah, I think they're in pretty good shape to wrap up that 4 seed. They've got a 2-win Crowley team coming to Shotwell Stadium where they've played really well this year. But the Aislinn game did put them in a spot where that's their goal now at this point, is to get that 4 seed and get into the playoffs. But the big story from that game was it was kind of a repeat of their previous games against Justin Northwest and against Fort Worth Brewer. Really the tougher teams on their schedule. They went on the road to play, where they got off to a really slow start, got dug a really big hole, and then just, couldn't get out of it. But they were shut out in the first half, down 3 or 4 scores going into halftime. And that was kind of the story.
All right. Abilene taking on Midland. The Eagles are still on a roll, beating Midland 42-28. It's like night and day what we saw in the first opening weeks of the season and what we're seeing now out of AHS.
Yeah, and that game was 42-28, and it really wasn't that close. They gave a couple of late touchdowns with some subs on the field, but they built a 42-14 lead in the fourth quarter and really played well. I mean, you mentioned it. They're running the ball exceptionally well. The King Thomas, their stud running back, had almost 200 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and then Abel Ramirez was almost perfect passing the ball. They didn't throw a ton, but he was extremely efficient. So another impressive win for the Eagles.
All right, the Big Country Preps game of the week took place up in Albany, and the Lions defeated Santo, basically in a district championship for District 8 2A D2, defeated them 33-6. And let me tell, we're going to be talking plenty about Albany tonight. Let me just mention Santo real quick. They got beat 33-6 at Albany, but they gave this Albany team, which is the best one we've seen in 5 or 6 years at least. They gave them about as good a go as anybody's given them this season. And I've got to say, I want to say to the folks out in Santo, I was impressed with the heart and the grit that this ball club showed. They never really backed down. They never quit. They were down early. They really had a chance they had some momentum going. They had cut the lead to 20-6, and they were driving for a score, which would have cut the lead to one score. And they turned the ball over. But I got to say, I was impressed with Santo and the grit that Coach Devin Mann's ball club had shown.
Yeah, and I think that team does a lot of things that that winning football teams do. They run the football really well. They play great defense. They play hard, like you said. Unfortunately, they just ran into an Albany team that I think this year is a buzzsaw. I mean, this Albany team is really a vintage, in terms of strength, a vintage Denney Faith football team. But a really good showing by Albany. But I think you're right that it was a good effort by Santo, even in the loss.
When you start talking about, the better teams that, you start, comparing an Albany team with the ones in the past and start saying it's one of the better ones we've seen and on and on. That's saying a lot considering the track record in Albany. And this is one of those ball clubs. Even before the season started, we were warning people that this might be a really good Albany ball club. And so far they've lived up to that.
Yeah, and you're talking about, I mean, when you're talking about the best teams at Albany's field, you're talking about teams that have an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity to win a state championship. And this one, that's a lot of pressure to put on a team, but I think that with the way they've played, I think that that's a reasonable expectation for this team that could happen if everything goes well.
If they get out of this monstrous region, I mean, that's
the test.
Geography is against them because the region is loaded, but they've got as good a chance as anybody else in that region of getting out.
Yeah.
And the team that does get out has got a pretty good shot.
That's the thing. I mean, I think before the season, everybody kind of pointed to Albany, to Windthorst, to Munster, and I think those are still the three biggies in that region. But
yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if Santo makes a run and kind of makes some things interesting. And there's some other teams in there as well that are having good years. But I think the important thing is that this Albany team, if they play to their potential, can absolutely compete with those two teams we just mentioned, Windthorst and Munster. So if they play well, they can get out of this region, and if they do, they will be really well prepared in for whatever comes next.
All right. Elsewhere around the area, we had a classic game out in Big Spring. The Steers against Fort Stockton for basically what was the district championship. Steers fall 29-28. They had a shot there at the end, did not execute on a Hail Mary pass with time expiring. But what a ball game, 29-28.
Yeah, just a tremendous all-around football game. I mean, a super competitive game. There was a great effort by Big Spring. They got down early by 2 scores, fought their way back into it, tied the game late, and then went down by 1 point on a 2-point conversion play, and then had to drive. We're trying to drive for a 99-yard touchdown drive at the end to win it, and we're thrown into the end zone on the last play and had a real legitimate opportunity to catch it for the win. So just a thrilling football game. Just unfortunate that Big Spring wasn't able to come out on top.
All right, looking ahead to this week, big ball game out in Forsan, perhaps the biggest ball game that Forsan has ever had. And we have 9-0 against 9-0. The Buffaloes are at 9-0 facing a Holly team with an identical record for a district championship. That is District 3 to a D1. And one of the best teams Forsan has ever had. And they are going up against a Holly team that has pitched 6 straight shutouts. 6 straight.
Yeah, this game to me is one that you and I have been talking about all year long. That we've kind of seen this, coming along the pike. It's kind of been like that one last week with the Big Country Preps game of the week with Albany and Santo that we kind of circled on the calendar and said, hey, this is going to be a big game in that district, and it has been. It's lived up to the billing. Both teams coming in at 9-0. But I kind of view this game similarly as last week's game of the week. I think that this is an opportunity for Forsan, like Santo had last week, to prove that they're on that level of the district favorite in Holly. So it should be a really fun matchup.
Well, one question I have is, who can score? Who can score against this Holly football team? Holly is going to score on Forsan. I don't think they're going to score very much because Forsan is a very stout defensive football team as well. The question is, can Forsan get enough points on the board against this Holly team to win the game? That's going to be the key question. I would think that winning the turnover battle is going to be, very important. And the thing is, is that Holly has turned the football over in bad position this year and put that defense in some bad positions, and they'd still come through. They've still come through. The big question, can Forsan just move the chains enough to get some points on the board and do what nobody's done since the first week of September, and that's score against Holly?
Which is crazy. But I think you're right. I think the key here is Forsan is going to want to come in and be able to possess the ball, be able to run the football. The question is, can they do that? Can they establish the run against this Holly defense? And eventually, can they finish drives? Because to beat them, you've got to be able to do that. And no one's done it in a long, long time.
Well, I mean, the fact is they have created more turnovers than points allowed. And we are in week 11. When you have more forced turnovers than points allowed in week 11, that's insane.
No, this defense
I've never seen that.
I mean, this defense is, I think insane's the right word. This defense has just been incredible. And they've done it to everybody. They've done it to the good teams on their schedule. They've done it to the weaker teams on their schedule. They don't let up. This is just a relentless defense. And I'm excited to see if Forsan, which has been really solid, a very solid team all around, if they can find a way to get this into the fourth quarter.
I don't know what's more frightening, Holly's defense or the fact that Holly's defense may not even be the best Class 2A D1 defense we have in the big country. There might be a better one down in Coleman. That's possible.
Yeah.
And then if they run into each other headlong in the playoffs, which is very possible.
Yeah.
We might have to stay all night before somebody finally gets a point on the board. And Coleman's defense is about as athletic as you're going to see.
Yeah, both of those defenses have been incredible, incredible when you look at the numbers. So that region is going to be a lot of fun. Our teams in that region are going to have a lot to say in how that turns out, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, and with that, it's just about time to bring on Albany head football coach Denny Faith. But before we do, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. One of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Albany Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And with that, Dan, it is just about time to bring on a guy who is, in my opinion, going to be a big country Hall of Famer when he finally hangs it up. Denney Faith, the head football coach at Albany. He's sort of he is the dean of head football coaches now that Hugh Sandifer has retired. Nobody has coached longer in this area than Denny, and very few can say that they've been more successful, if anybody.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question. I think that Denny Faith is a surefire big country Hall of Famer whenever he does decide to hang up the whistle. But honestly, I hope that's not anytime soon. I mean, you look, this team's as good as any he's ever had, and he seems to be enjoying it. So I hope Denny Faith coaches a long time, and we definitely enjoyed covering his teams, and this one's going to be really fun to follow down the stretch.
All right, and with that, it's just about time to bring on the legend. Y'all set?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get him on. It looks like he's ready.
All right, joining us now via Zoom, Albany head football coach Denny Faith. Coach, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad you guys asked me to be on Zoom tonight.
All right. Undefeated start, 8-0. Tell us about the top keys to that start this year in your estimation.
The top key, I think, is probably the way our season ended last year. I think that has been a great motivation for many of our kids. We had a great spring and a great summer, and all of that stems from kind of the way things ended up for us last year. So I think that's been great motivation. Our kids have really responded to that and have started out with, winning the district championship and have several goals in front of us.
And on that topic of the district championship, coming off a really big win, a really impressive win over a Santo team that came in playing really well. That plays a style of play that can give you trouble if you're not prepared for it. So just talk about kind of what your team did in terms of going out there, showing up and playing the way y'all did to get that win.
Well, I guess the fortunate thing for us is we've played Santo many times in the last several years. You know, we were in the district with them once before, and we've had them in the playoffs several times. So just being familiar with what they do is a big benefit. You know, if you come in the first time you play them or see them for the first time, with the stuff that they can do, can really catch you off guard. But our familiarity with them and being able to play them so many times in the past several years, I think is a great advantage for us.
Coach, your offensive line play has been absolutely dominant. How does this offensive line in 2021 stack up with some of the better offensive lines that you've had in the past? I know you've had a bunch of them.
We've had some good lines, but I can say that this group is right there with the best of them, and they're all very intelligent, which really helps. And they're not overly big. We have some size, but they're not giants. But they're quick on their feet. They're good. They play well together. And I think just being together and having most of the starts this year all together, I think the continuity has just gotten better and better as each game we played.
And staying on the offense side of the football, just wanted to ask you a question about Cole Chapman and what you've seen from him in terms of development at that quarterback position. Done a really good job both running and passing the football, really taking care of the football. Just how proud have you been of what you've seen from him this year?
Well, Cole's just one of those kind of athletes that you love to coach. He's very quiet and does all his leadership with action, and he's very calm. He doesn't ever get rattled on anything, and besides all that, he's a tough kid. He's not going to shy away from any contact, and sometimes that I wished he would sometimes, but he's it's just the competitiveness in him. He's not going to do that. So, but very intelligent and great athlete. Very good arm, can throw the ball, and has plenty of athletic ability with his feet, and can do things in the pocket that a lot of guys can't. And he's just all around good quarterback.
Coach, you're always striving for offensive balance, and I don't recall an Albany team with better balance in recent years. You have a power running game. You can throw deep. You can throw short. You got some quick guys out there. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you're utilizing a lot of players. A lot of players are getting touches.
Yeah, we're very fortunate this year to have a lot of skilled kids, and a lot of them have their own strengths, and we're trying to use those strengths. We've got 3 or 4 really good running backs that I think a lot of those guys could be starting for other programs, but we're really deep in the running back position. We have some receivers that are all making plays. Like I said, some of them can stretch the field, and some of them can catch the possession ball for you and pick up first downs and those kind of things. So, just the balance that we have this year and the depth that we have at our skill position is been really good for us.
And moving over to the other side of the football, y'all have obviously been fantastic on that side as well. I don't think y'all allowed more than 7 points since y'all's first game against Dublin, 42 points all year long. What has been the keys to the success on that side of the football this year?
Just playing with intensity and being hungry. Those guys are playing hard. Coach Fuentes does a great job of getting those guys prepared each week, and the other coaches as well doing the things that they need to do to make sure that we can put ourselves in the best position, and then just playing with a lot of great effort. It's one thing that we try to teach defensively is you may make a mistake, but if you make it 100%, it may not cost you anyway. So just play with great effort, play great intensity, and get a lot of people flying and run into the football, and good things are going to happen.
Coach, you've been at Albany since 82 as an assistant, started at 82, been the head coach since 87, more than 30 years of head coaching, and hundreds and hundreds of kids have gone through your program. Some of these guys come back to Albany and they want to see Coach Faith. But you haven't seen some of them in 30 years. How do you remember everybody's name?
Oh. I don't sometimes, and sometimes I'll see a former athlete in Walmart or something, and they'll say, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" I just pat them on the back and say, "Doing great, buddy." But I don't know that I remember you. There's been a lot of them, but I can honestly say I remember most of them. I really do. We've had some great kids come through here and been a part of this program, and like you said, when they come back to town, they like to come to the field house and brag about their team and how I've gotten soft and don't coach as hard as I used to and those kind of things, but it's all in good fun. And like I said, I love those guys to come back and they're always a part of the program. That's a good thing about, being a program and being in a situation so long, all these guys belong to the same fraternity, of Albany Line football.
Coach, I worked pretty closely with Hugh Sandifer over at Wiley, whose career path followed yours pretty closely in terms of one school for a very long time, assistant then a head coach. And one thing that he talked a lot about was coaching former players' children. And he always told me that the day that someone comes in and says, "You coached my granddad," was the day he'd hang it up. So have you coached some kids of former players, and what's that process been like?
Oh, I have. Matter of fact, Cole Chapman, our quarterback this year, his father, Clint, was on my 91 team that went to the state championship against Schulenburg. So he was our quarterback that year. So, yeah, there's been many, many football players that have come through and have coached their fathers. And that's always an experience too. So, but it's been good. And for the most part, I've really enjoyed it.
Every year you get asked this question: how much longer are you going to coach? You've lost some weight. You look good. Are you feeling good? It looks like you can coach for a long time.
I do. And I've always told myself, as long as I keep going to practice and enjoy practice and enjoying the preparation part, I don't see a reason for me not to continue. I still enjoy it. I still get excited for Fridays. I still have butterflies, when we have a big game, and all of those things are still the same. So, I don't know when that time will come. I'm sure that I'll know when it's here, but right now, I'm just excited about getting to play Cross Plains on Friday and doing everything that we can to try to prepare for that next game.
And Coach, you've had so many great teams at Albany, and I know coaches don't like to compare teams. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but just this team's off to such a great start. Just kind of how would you describe the potential that this group has?
I think the sky's the limit for these guys, and that's what we've talked about all year long. That you're only going to be as good as you guys can make yourselves, and don't be satisfied. That's we spend a lot of time Saturday when we watch that film against Santo. Hey. We felt like we played really well, some penalties and those kind of things, but let's not be satisfied with that. Stay hungry and keep practicing, and let's keep working and let's see what happens. But don't be satisfied with what we've already done. Let's be proud of what we've done, but let's keep looking in the future and keep working.
Coach, a lot of guys that are in your position, long-term successful coaches that have been around a school for a long time, when asked to recollect, a lot of them will say that some of their more memorable teams weren't necessarily teams that won regional titles or went to state, but teams that overachieved or had a ton of potential but didn't maybe show it. Is that the case with you? Some of your more memorable teams or that fall into that?
I would agree with that. 4 years ago, I think we started out 0-5 and made it to the semifinals. I had probably one of the better teams that I've coached. Was my first year of coaching, and if I was the coach, I was pretty green at that point, that first year, and those guys were as good athletes as we had. And I wish that I was the coach now, or what was the coach then that I am now, and those guys would have had a lot more success than they did, because I've grown as a coach and grown with the program and have gotten better, I hope, and like you said, some of the, and not just team players. I love to watch a kid that, he steps into your program as a freshman and you go, I don't know if this guy's ever going to make it or not. And by the time he's a senior, he's one of your better kids, one of your better athletes, and doing the job that you hoped he could do, and he's getting it done.
And last one, just looking ahead a little bit. One thing that your team is in a really brutal region when you look at it. Obviously, you got the team out of your district in Santo, and then a Munster and Windthorst team also waiting in that region. Just what are your thoughts on this region and kind of the playoff path that y'all have?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be whichever team comes out of this region is going to be battle tested. That's for sure. So. I told Coach Mann the other night that it's not going to surprise me a bit if 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whenever it is, we're not sitting down and trying to prepare for Santo again, because, I think they're that good. And, obviously Munster and Windthorst, the teams that they've had, and Petrolia's playing really well in that district also. So, it's going to be a tough road for whoever gets out of this region. So, but like you said, when you get out, that team's going to be battle tested and be prepared for what's in front of them.
Coach, I was up there at that Santo game, and I got to tell you, there was something I was really disappointed in, because when I went up there, I mean, I was told that it was going to be you that was going to jump out of the helicopter before the game. And, when I saw that it was not you, I was like, what a jet. What a jet.
Yeah. That was a sight, wasn't it? Wasn't that something? Yeah.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And obviously we can be keeping a very close eye on you for the rest of the season. Best of luck to you.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Appreciate it, Coach.
And that was Albany head football coach Denny Faith. A class act, just a gentleman. And he really, I tell you what, one thing that about Denny, he loves the kids, but at the when you see him get emotional, and it's, I've seen that happen, you really get a sense for how much he cares about the kids and how much they're working. He loves his job. And he loves the players. He really does.
Yeah. And really, I mean, he's kind of a unicorn. There aren't many guys like him that stay that long at one school, particularly at the 2A level, but he's been such an institution there and such an icon really in this area. Just done a remarkable job when you look at the body of work. It's so hard, particularly again at the 2A level, to have that level of consistency where you are literally good every year. It's really impressive what he's done, and just the culture he's built and the tradition. Yeah, he's just an awesome guy, and it was really fun to have him on.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we have an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month. That's $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, they are available for purchase. You can purchase a digital download for just $7. And we also have some prints and keepsakes available. So make sure you check those out. But you'll notice as you're scrolling through the site that we take a lot of photos from these games we are at. It's something we really enjoy doing and something we're very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.